Right now, beneath southern Italy, scientists have uncovered a discovery that is sending shockwaves through the geological community. Deep under Campi Flegrei, what was once believed to be a single magma chamber has now been revealed as three massive chambers stacked and connected underground, forming a dangerous pressure system that could change everything we thought we knew about volcanic activity in this region. Using advanced 3D imaging technology in March 2026, researchers identified a complex underground structure where magma moves between layers, building pressure closer and closer to the surface. The most alarming part is that the shallow chamber sits just a few kilometers beneath Naples, directly under millions of people living their daily lives without seeing the threat below. Scientists say this system is becoming more active and the warning signs are increasing. Subscribe now and turn on notifications to stay updated with the latest scientific discoveries and real-time updates on Campi Flegrei and global volcanic activity. Campi Flegrei is not a typical volcano with a single cone rising above the ground. It is a massive volcanic caldera located near Naples in southern Italy, and scientists consider it one of the most dangerous volcanic systems on Earth. Unlike Mount Vesuvius, which has a visible peak, Campi Flegrei spreads across a wide underground area filled with magma gas and geothermal activity. Researchers have been monitoring this region since the 1950s, tracking ground uplift earthquakes and gas emissions in a process known as bradycism. Over the decades, the ground has repeatedly risen and fallen, sometimes by several meters, showing that the system beneath the surface is constantly moving. Today, more than 3 million people live in and around Naples, directly above this restless volcanic field, making every new scientific discovery in Campi Flegrei extremely important for understanding the real level of risk. In March 2026, scientists finally uncovered what may be the most important discovery ever made beneath Campi Flegrei. Using advanced three-dimensional imaging and magnetotelluric scanning, researchers were able to see deep underground structures with a level of clarity never achieved before. For decades, geologists believed there was only one main magma chamber feeding the volcanic system, but the new data revealed something far more complex and far more dangerous. Instead of a single reservoir, 3 separate magma chambers were identified, stacked at different depths and connected through underground channels. This discovery completely changed the scientific understanding of how pressure builds beneath the caldera. It showed that magma is not stored in one place, but moves through multiple layers, transferring energy and stress between chambers, creating a dynamic system that is much harder to predict and potentially far more unstable than previously believed. The deepest magma chamber beneath Campi Flegrei sits roughly 8 kilometers below the surface, and scientists believe this is the primary source feeding the entire volcanic system. This chamber is connected to deeper regions of the Earth where molten rock forms under extreme heat and pressure, slowly rising toward the crust over time. Unlike the upper layers, the deep chamber does not show visible surface effects, but seismic instruments have detected continuous micro-earthquakes occurring at this depth, indicating that magma is actively moving and accumulating energy. Researchers describe this layer as the engine of the system, constantly pushing new magma upward through fractures and underground pathways. Each movement from this deep reservoir sends pressure into the chambers above, gradually increasing stress throughout the volcanic structure and setting the stage for further instability closer to the surface. Above the deep reservoir, scientists identified a middle magma chamber, located at a depth of roughly 5 to 6 kilometers beneath Campi Flegrei. This layer plays a critical role in controlling how pressure moves through the volcanic system. Instead of allowing magma to rise directly to the surface, the middle chamber acts like a temporary storage zone, trapping part of the molten material and allowing pressure to accumulate over time. Seismic data suggests that magma entering this chamber slows down, spreads through fractures in the surrounding rock, and gradually builds stress within the structure. Researchers believe this level behaves like a pressure regulator, but it can also become a dangerous bottleneck when too much magma arrives from below. When pressure increases in this middle chamber, it pushes stress upward into the shallow layer, intensifying the overall instability of the entire Campi Flegrei system. The shallow magma chamber is the most dangerous part of the entire Campi Flegrei system because it sits only 3 to 4 kilometers beneath the surface, directly under the densely populated Naples area. Scientists are especially concerned about this layer because magma and gas at such a shallow depth can create rapid pressure changes that are much harder to control or predict. Seismic monitoring shows that stress is gradually increasing in this upper chamber as pressure from the deeper and middle layers continues to move upward through underground channels. At this depth, even small changes in pressure can lead to ground deformation, stronger earthquakes, and sudden steam-driven explosions. Researchers describe this shallow chamber as the critical zone, where instability could quickly turn into a rupture, making it the focal point of current scientific monitoring and risk assessment efforts in the region. What makes this discovery even more concerning is the way the three magma chambers are physically connected through a network of underground channels and fractures beneath Campi Flegrei. Scientists now understand that these chambers do not operate independently, but instead function as a single integrated pressure system. When magma rises from the deep reservoir, it travels through these natural pipelines and transfers energy into the middle chamber, which then pushes stress further upward into the shallow layer. Magnetotelluric imaging has revealed fluid pathways that allow heat, gas, and molten material to move continuously between levels, explaining why fumaroles at the surface are becoming hotter and more active. Each seismic event at depth sends a pressure pulse through this connected system, creating a chain reaction that gradually increases instability and makes the entire volcanic structure far more sensitive to sudden changes. As scientists continue monitoring Campi Flegrei, the warning signs have become increasingly difficult to ignore. Seismic instruments are recording more frequent micro-earthquakes at different depths, indicating that magma is actively moving through the underground system. At the same time, fumaroles across the caldera are releasing hotter gases and higher concentrations of volcanic emissions, showing that heat and pressure are building closer to the surface. Ground sensors also detect continuous deformation, with the surface slowly rising as magma and gas accumulate below. Researchers describe this phase as an acceleration period, where multiple indicators begin to change at once, rather than in isolation. When earthquakes, gas emissions, and ground uplift all increase together, it usually signals that the volcanic system is entering a more unstable state, requiring constant observation and rapid data analysis to understand how quickly conditions may evolve in the coming months. One of the clearest signs of change at Campi Flegrei is the steady rise of the ground, a phenomenon scientists call bradyseism. This slow but persistent uplift has been recorded for decades, but the recent trend shows a noticeable acceleration. In earlier years, the surface would rise only slightly over long periods, giving researchers time to analyze patterns and adjust monitoring strategies. However, recent measurements show that the rate of uplift has increased, with the ground rising faster than it did just a few years ago. This upward movement is driven by magma and gas accumulating beneath the caldera, pushing the surface higher as pressure builds in the underground chambers. Engineers and geologists closely track these changes because ground uplift often signals that stress is intensifying below, making it one of the most important indicators of volcanic activity in the region today. Scientists studying Campi Flegrei have identified a critical pressure threshold that could determine when the shallow magma chamber reaches rupture point. Research suggests that the upper chamber may fail when excess pressure approaches around 9 megapascals, a level considered dangerous for the surrounding rock structure. This number represents the point at which the rock can no longer contain the accumulated stress, allowing fractures to expand and potentially triggering an explosive release of gas and magma. What makes this situation especially concerning is that pressure is increasing in multiple chambers at the same time, creating a complex and unpredictable system. Even with advanced monitoring equipment, researchers cannot determine the exact moment this threshold might be reached, leaving scientists in a constant state of observation as they track pressure trends and seismic signals for any sign of sudden instability. For the people living above Campi Flegrei, the situation is no longer just a scientific discussion, but part of their daily reality. In areas like Pozzuoli and surrounding neighborhoods, residents have started noticing visible changes in their environment, including cracks in walls, shifting foundations, and uneven roads caused by continuous ground movement. Buildings that once appeared stable are now showing structural stress, and small earthquakes are becoming a regular experience for many families. Despite these warning signs, daily life continues as usual, with shops open, traffic moving, and communities trying to maintain a sense of normalcy. Many residents face a difficult choice between staying in homes passed down through generations or leaving behind everything they have built. This human dimension adds another layer of urgency to the scientific monitoring of Campi Flegrei and the risks developing beneath the surface. For government officials and emergency planners, Campi Flegrei presents an extremely complex and sensitive challenge. Authorities must balance scientific warnings with the realities of managing a densely populated urban region where millions of people live and work every day. Ordering a large-scale evacuation too early could trigger widespread panic, disrupt the economy and create long-term social instability, while waiting too long could leave communities unprepared for a sudden volcanic event. Emergency agencies continue to update evacuation plans, reinforce infrastructure and expand monitoring systems, but the uncertainty surrounding the timing of a potential eruption makes every decision difficult. Officials remain in a constant state of readiness, coordinating with scientists and civil protection teams to ensure that accurate information reaches the public, while avoiding unnecessary fear, hoping that pressure inside the volcanic system stabilizes rather than escalates into a anitelv crisis. Volcanologists outline two primary scenarios for what could happen if Campi Flegrei reaches critical pressure, phreatic and magmatic eruptions. A phreatic eruption occurs when water trapped underground is suddenly heated by rising magma, creating violent steam-driven explosions that can blow rock and debris across the surface with almost no warning. These events are particularly dangerous because they can happen suddenly, catching residents and authorities off guard. The more severe magmatic eruption involves the direct eruption of molten lava, pyroclastic flows, and ash clouds that can rise kilometers into the atmosphere. Such an eruption would not only devastate the surrounding area, but also impact regional weather, disrupt air travel across Europe, and deposit ash over vast distances. Scientists stress that the current pressure increases, and system connectivity mean these scenarios are not distant possibilities. They are real risks developing in real time beneath Naples. The situation at Campi Flegrei is happening right now, and scientists emphasize that it is not a distant threat. Ground uplift increasing seismic activity, and hotter fumaroles indicate that the volcanic system is becoming more unstable by the day. Researchers are tracking these changes in real time using advanced monitoring equipment, but predicting the exact timing of a potential eruption remains impossible. The pressure in all three magma chambers is rising simultaneously, creating a highly sensitive and interconnected system where any sudden shift could trigger a catastrophic event. For residents of Naples and surrounding areas, this means living above a constantly changing and unpredictable natural hazard. The scientific community is urging continuous vigilance, updated risk assessments, and public awareness, so that if conditions escalate, people are prepared. Stay informed, follow expert updates, and understand that this is a situation unfolding as we speak beneath one of the world's most dangerous volcanic regions. Stay informed on the latest developments beneath Campi Flegrei and other active volcanoes around the world. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications now so you never miss real-time updates and expert insights.